Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, everyone. It's CJ. Hopefully, everyone had a fantastic day. It is still Thursday, April the 14th. I apologize for jumping on late. Had a late dinner with my nephew who's in town from Texas, so it was exciting to catch up with him and his wife and all that kind of fun stuff. So thank you all for your patience and tuning in. But my gosh, what an interesting news cycle that we've had the past 12 to 24 hours as it relates to everything in this title. So if you have not done so yet, do me a favor, check out the link. If you want to contribute or participate in this conversation, you can jump in StreamYard and participate and add commentary. Would love to have again any thoughts that jump in regards to the news in regards to Elon Musk and his apparent bid for a takeover of Twitter, and that's what the purpose of this OMC Open Mic Cast is about, is discussion in regards to that. Because in the last 24 to 48 hours, there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of people speculating, a lot of people trying to assess, what is Elon attempting to do here. You have the far left that are literally like losing their minds right now. They're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Like he's gonna bring back free speech and it's game over for us. And so I've been listening to a lot of commentary today. So I'm interested to hear your perspectives. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Elon Musk and what his goals may be in regards to Twitter. And I think it's just one of those dynamics that, I had it's hilarious. I agree. Madonna Rose, welcome. What's up? Thank you for being here tonight, Rose. Texan Tom Payne's in the house, so thank you for being here. Mojo's in the house somewhere. He's probably passed out for now, but he'll be back on. Robert says, I'm enjoying them losing their minds. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the funny thing? Isn't that the funny thing that anytime that someone does anything to attempt to counter their narrative or break the status quo of censorship or the quote unquote woke community, that everyone gets deemed a white supremacist, a racist, a radical right troll, and they do it time and time again. It's really overplayed. I think people have been so desynthesized to that that people don't care anymore. They're like, whatever. I mean, that whole race baiting thing is just a card that they play over and over again. And it's unfortunate that they pointed out at Elon. But V and I did not do a show today. We apologize. We skipped. We had a working lunch today. We had a couple other things to take care of. So we skipped and we said, hey, let's go to lunch and catch up. And we haven't done that in a minute. So it was kind of important for us to do that. And through that conversation with V, we were talking about, just in general, like, and I'm guilty of this as well, that, I have a habit of not necessarily listening to people that I don't agree with. I'll be the first to shut down their stream or not go listen. And I've tried to break that. I've tried to break that cycle of, you know what, I want to go listen to their perspective. I may not agree with it. But let me go listen to it. And Elon has been one of those persons, not saying anything bad about him. It's been one of those persons that I wanted to learn more about his thoughts are and what he truly means in terms of his efforts and what he's doing. But I'll jump to that in just a moment. But I've done the same thing with a few other people. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook is another one, from Meta. I'm sorry, not Facebook anymore, Meta. He was another one that Mark Zuckerberg did a podcast with Lex Friedman. And I'm like, you know what? I need to go. I don't like him as a person because of everything that he's done, but let me go listen to what his thoughts are. Let me go listen to him express himself so I get a better understanding of who he is as a person, his goals, his ambitions. What is he driving to? What is his potential end game? And can I get some insights to either help me better understand him as a person or counter his thoughts and his opinions to be able to help people understand what those might be? And it's very easy. And why this is important, because I've listened to a lot of commentary today in regards to Elon Musk, and a lot of people trying to assess in the 11th hour, what he's doing. Many of the assessments have been wrong. Yeah, it was a great interview. I agree. Yeah, Lex called him out on a lot of things and held him to the fire. But I think if you really paid attention, like if you would have listened to any of the podcasts that Elon had recently participated in, some of his discussions regarding some of his actions, the whole Twitter thing was kind of like a no-brainer. And you can go back to a couple weeks ago where V and I were having a discussion. I said, I think everything's pointing to Elon purchasing or attempting to purchase Twitter, because there was a lot of things. All you had to do was just connect the dots. And so my attempt tonight, and I welcome anyone to share your thoughts on what you think that Elon's ambitions are in regards to Twitter and purchasing it. But I think if you would have listened to, if you would go back and listen to some of the podcasts and his early thoughts on everything ranging from censorship to his personal use of Twitter, you'd probably understand why he has done this and what his passions are in regards to Twitter. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it, because I know he has just as many supporters as critics, right? There's a lot of people who criticize, and that's good. That's the way it should be. People should be entitled to their own opinion. However, again, if you would have listened to some of the conversations, I think that people would have been able to do conversations and breaking down in regards to their thoughts on Elon with having some background information. And again, I think it's important that we pay attention to this. So I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. I do have some videos queued up. I think I have the sound and everything set up properly. This first one was probably the most important. And why I state that is for two reasons. Is that Elon a couple months ago did a podcast with the Babylon Bee. Many of you know it's a political satire site. The Babylon Bee has recently been removed from Twitter. They've been banned, shadow banned, removed completely. And Elon was a fan of the Babylon Bee. He went on and did their podcast. He was a fan of political satire. He likes humor like Elon does. Like, I guarantee you that to hang out with him and have a beer or to chat with him and have fun conversation, it'd probably be a great time. And you can say that of a lot of people. I think it would be a great time to maybe even have a beer with, like Barack Obama, and sit down and just talk to him and have a beer. And, you don't have to agree with him. There's a lot of things that you'd probably hate and everything else like that. But getting back to the thought in regards to Elon is the fact that a couple of things, like I think his conversation that he had with the Babylon Bee was so important, because I think it expressed his concerns about Twitter, about platforms being leveraged, and how he was so anti-woke community. So I have that queued up first. So let's jump into this conversation. This is covered under fair use. I highly doubt the Babylon Bee will come after me and try to block this video. Let's bring this in. And again, this is covered under fair use because we're providing commentary about it. This is Elon Musk, again, sitting down with the Babylon Bee.
Our editor-in-chief.
How's it going?
This is creative director Ethan Nicole.
Okay. So, I mean, well, I guess before we get started, maybe you guys could tell me, what's the, how did the Bee get started, and
yeah, sure.
and yeah, what's your deal, and why are you in California?
We're getting interviewed. That's way easier, actually.
I'm much better at being interviewed, so no problem. Yeah, the Bee was just this little Christian humor site that we launched in 2016, and it was just we spent $50 on the domain name, started writing jokes, throwing them out there, and it started to go big in conservative circles a couple years ago, and that's just kind of where we got to where we are. Seth is our CEO. He bought the site a few years ago from the original founder. Yeah.
Who was the original founder?
His name is Adam Ford.
He's not with the company anymore.
He owns a piece of it. Yeah. He does not the Bee now. If you've seen that, yeah.
Which is unaffiliated?
No, they're kind of affiliated. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you retweet them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So they do like real news, but crazy real news.
Real news.
It's like the backup plan. It's like when satire is impossible because the world's too absurd, then we just report on the absurdity over on not to be.
I
So,
see.
plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reality is weirder than fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Often is. So how many people at the B now?
Yeah, we've got probably a dozen full timers now. It's grown pretty fast. A year ago, it was 3 of us.
Okay.
We have like 25 people involved, just not all full-time staff. So you'd be surprised, like with satire, you don't have to have a writing staff like filling a room, churning out articles all day long. You can only handle so much satire every day. Like we don't need to publish an article every 3 minutes like Fox News or Daily Wire or something like that. So we have a lot of part-time. One of our writers here, Frank Fleming, is one of our writers. And he's got a full-time job. He just writes for us on the side.
Okay.
We'd love to have him full-time.
I'm the local guy.
Yeah, he lives in Austin.
Oh, you live in Austin, okay.
Yeah.
Over California.
Got it.
Yeah, and I'm a Florida guy. The headquarters are technically in South Florida. I'm in
seriously?
Southeast
Okay.
Florida. Yeah, and
Florida man.
I'd love to get these guys to Florida, but it's hard to get people out of California. It really is. It's more challenging than you think.
Despite the state of California doing everything it can to encourage people to leave.
Yes. Yeah.
I think you had one article about how Gavin Newsom is a U-Haul Salesman of the Year.
Yeah.
Actually true. Actually true.
So you don't miss it then?
No, I mean, there's certainly many aspects of California that I do like. Most of my friends are still in California. So some of my best friends are California. So yeah, I do miss many aspects of California, especially my friends. And it's beautiful and lots of cool things, but increasingly difficult to get things done. And California used to be the land of opportunity, and now it's becoming more so the land of sort of over-regulation, over-litigation, over-taxation,
Poop on the sidewalk.
and scorn. It's just so it's not like thanks for the taxes. It's like thanks for the taxes and
Hacksaw.
kick you in the teeth. It's like
Sucks.
exactly. You didn't exactly get a thank you note.
Yeah.
So okay, let me flip the question though. So that's kind of the story. The B started out as, this little blog. It took off. It's kind of blown up into something like now we have a following, including you. Like how do we get on your radar? People sharing our articles and you just saw them coming across your feed?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I saw you on Twitter at one point. I thought some of the articles were quite funny.
I wrote those.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I used to be a much bigger fan of the Onion, but then the Onion just seems to have gotten really politically correct. It's sort of gone a bit, but in the SNL direction, somewhat leftist. It's basically it will not really make fun of anything on the left, but it used to be much more even-handed than the Onion, and then they just got the woke mind virus.
Yeah.
So to the point where the Onion it used to be very funny, and then it was not that funny. SNL, I used to be a huge fan of SNL, but I still think they have some occasional good stuff, but it's just become, I think you've written some articles about this. SNL had many, if not most of the SNL episodes are kind of a moral lecture on why we're bad human beings,
right.
Instead of comedy.
Yeah.
So, and again, won't make fun of anything on the left, really. Like, they'll beat up on Ted Cruz 17,000 times. Right. You're like, okay, we get it.
And often because he's made fun of someone on the left, he'll make fun of someone on the left, and then they jump on him for that. It's like a defensive thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just there are just a lot of no-fly zones with a lot of comedy, and then you realize that's like, wait a second, is the comedy getting at an essential truth, or trying to, or is there a propaganda element, or is it trying to push you in a particular direction, or getting to an essential truth that is humorous? Mm-hmm. And when it stops trying to get to an essential truth that is humorous, then it's just not that funny.
Right. Now, see, that's exactly the criticism we get from the left. The criticism from the left is that that's what we're doing with our humor, is that we're trying to push a narrative neglecting the truth.
Well, it's literally what the New York Times says,
Right.
that we are far right misinformation disguised as satire.
Right.
You know? So there's a, it's almost where you're standing.
Jealousy to it.
Yeah, it's almost based on where you're standing, that how you
It's
see
based
it.
on where you're standing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say the B is moderately right. It's not, but it's not, certainly not far right. My impression is not that, I would say that the B is not probably, it wouldn't be accurate to say the B is fully centrist. But it is certainly not far right. If 1 is fully left and 10 is fully right, the B seems to be at 6.5 towards the right. That-ish.
So Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Babylon B, Hitler, or somewhere on that scale.
Yeah, it's not, but it's a. But I mean, the B is I think less right than say the Onion is left, for example. So the Onion I think would be more left than the B is right, rightist, or whatever.
Yeah, rightist. I don't know.
We'll have to put that on our Wikipedia page.
Just a leftist. Rightist propaganda.
You talked about the woke mind virus, and I was wondering if you could decipher this tweet of yours for me, because I'm not a programmer. You wrote trace route woke _mind _virus. What does that mean?
Okay, so traceroute is a networking command to. So if you want to figure out a path to a particular server or domain, you'd say traceroute, or in Windows traceRT. That would show you the path to a particular source server, either an IP address or domain name, and it would show you basically all the hops that it goes through, and the latency between each hop. And so
I know some of those words.
yeah. So traceroute would be like, where did it come from?
Yeah.
Where did the virus come from? What is its origin?
So did this work? Did this command work? Or no? Did you
You can read
figure
the
it out?
comments. Read the comments and
tells
see
you.
and see.
All right.
It is a prevalent mind virus, and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization.
Also, not having enough kids, right?
Yeah, I think most people, if you just simply look at the birth rate statistics, you can tell what the future is going to be like because you can see how many children were born last year. And
Okay, I'm going to stop it there for a moment because there were, a few important things. Welcome, Mac Truck. Good to see you in the house. Mojo's back on, so welcome back, Mojo, and Revolutionary Bliss as well here. So thank you for that. I would never ever pretend that to sit there and say that I understand the mind of Elon or even began to decipher it. So what I'm about to say is I could say that from a personal perspective in terms of where I've been in my professional aspect in terms of being busy, not that I'm comparing to anything that Elon has achieved. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but just in terms of I can imagine that as an individual, his thoughts and how busy his mind is 24/7 with the amount of project that he has going on with his family, with his professional life, that to me, Twitter seems like an outlet to him. It's kind of like his fun, his enjoyment to be able to go and enjoy satire, but yet at the same time get, factual information and for him to contribute to the conversation in the form of his tweets that are fun, engagement, to see the reaction that he gets from people. And at the same time, apparently he interacts with some people who are on, who comment on his post. So I think that was one point. And hopefully everyone, with seeing how comfortable he felt around the individuals with the Babylon Bee, he developed a friendship. I truly believe that they probably exchanged numbers. They probably text each other. And that was one of the first things that was an indicator to me that Twitter's more than a hobby to him. It's like an enjoyment thing. And have you ever enjoyed something so much that it's your fun, it's your break away from things, right? It's your I'm getting away from the busyness of my career, my life, because this is my hobby. I love doing it. And then guess what? That thing changes. It's something different. They start censoring people. They start blocking thoughts. They remove the Babylon Bee, which to him was like a sense of entertainment, a sense of fun. And I could see from that perspective, he's like, you know what? Like, this is one of my small enjoyments that I have in life. And he probably has a lot, but I firmly believe he enjoys, Twitter. He enjoys the humor. He enjoys being able to post. And I can be completely wrong. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on it if I'm going in the right direction. And I think that stemmed from his passion to get involved with Twitter, to say, you know what, it's wrong when a page like the Babylon Bee is complete political satire, and they could lean to the right a little bit more. He said in his statements that he thinks that they're like 7.5 more to the right, and that's okay. That can be. There's probably just as many other Twitter handles that are far left, and they can do that. But I firmly believe that his passion was like, hey, look, like, Twitter is changing. It's no longer fun for me. You're removing things that I enjoyed, and it's one of my outlets that I need. I have to have this as a busy individual. In my downtime, when I'm either, to and from business meetings or at the airport, or if I'm on flight. So I think that's why he personally got involved, especially when the Babylon Bee got, booted off of Twitter. He's like, you know what? This is satire. This is funny. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows what they post is for fun. And when you have a social media platform like Twitter that comes along and says, you know what, we don't care if it's for fun, if it's satire, we're kicking you off, then it's like, it's no longer fun to me. I'll give you an example. Like, I love gaming. Thank you, Robert. I enjoy gaming, and I have a group of friends that I game with, and I've known them for like 25 years. Like, oh my gosh, it's been so long. And it's a great group of guys, and we're all over the place. And I love to game with them. And then, because we have fun. And I would get online and be late at night, and it was kind of like my outlet. It was like my detox to get out of it. But then somewhere along the way, some of the conversations when we were gaming would become political. The guys that were chatting, and we would normally do that, it'd just be shooting the shit and making fun of each other and poking jokes and everything. But then some of the conversations, turn, more political in terms of the political dynamics, and I didn't enjoy it as much. And I started breaking away from like, I'm not here for political discussion, but I respected those guys enough. If that's what they wanted to do and they wanted to have their fun, I'm like, that's what I'm not here for. I'm not. So I guess that I'm kind of comparing that to Elon and to how he looks at Twitter is a more of a hobby turn. I don't know whether he golfs or does other things for recreational, but Twitter was like a recreational thing for him that turned into his outlet. And that's why he's like, you know what? It's not what it used to be. And I don't agree with the direction that it's going. So I'm going to get involved with it. A few things that kind of back that up into where I'm going with the conversation. And I'm doing this because I want people to have like a better understanding of what I think Elon and his reasoning for getting involved with Twitter, because I've seen a lot of commentary that I don't agree with. I think they're wrong in the commentary. What games are you currently playing? I play Arma 3, which is kind of like a virtual combat training. And I play a really old classic game. It's called Tom Clancy Rainbow Six. I mean, you could probably run that thing on a Radio Shack TRSD 80. I think that was the name of it, from the 80s. It doesn't require a lot. It's a first-person shooter game. So getting back to it is that, Elon kind of validates in terms of his use of Twitter and, what he does with it, with the conversation that he had with Joe Rogan. So let's bring this into play, because I think, again, this kind of exposes a little bit and gives you some insights into Elon and his thoughts in regards to Twitter. So here's his discussion with Joe Rogan. Again, Joe Rogan, this is covered under fair use because we're providing commentary to it. So don't block my video on YouTube. So here we go.
I'm on social media.
Now, deleting social media from your applications, from your phones, Does that give you 10% boost to happiness? What do you think the percentage is?
I think probably something like that. Yeah, it's about right.
Good 10%.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I've kept is Twitter because I kind of like need some means of getting a message out, you know?
Right.
That's about it. So far, so good.
Well, what's interesting with you actually occasionally engage with people on Twitter.
Yeah, it's
what percentage of that is a good idea?
None.
Probably 10%, right?
Post and ghost, Elon. Post and ghost.
It's hard.
It's mostly, I think it's on balance more good than bad, but there's definitely some bad. So
do you ever
hopefully the good outweighs the bad.
Do you ever think about how odd it is, the weird feeling that you get when someone says something shitty to you on Twitter and you read it? The weird feeling. This weird little negative jolt. It's like a subjective negative jolt of energy that you don't really need to absorb, but you do anyway. Like, well, fuck this guy. Fuck him.
I mean, there's a lot of negativity on Twitter.
It is, but it's a weird, it's in its form. Like the way, if you ingest it if you're like, you try to be like a little scientist as you're ingesting it, you're like, what? How weird is this? And I'm even getting upset at some strange person saying something mean to me. It's not even accurate.
I mean, there are a vast number of negative comments. So for the vast majority of it, I just ignore them. The vast majority.
Yeah.
But every now and again, get drawn in. It's not good.
It's not good.
Make mistakes.
Yes, you can make mistakes.
You can make some mistakes.
We're all human. We can make mistakes. Yeah. It's hard. And people love it when you say something and you take it back. And they're like, fuck you. We saved it forever.
Screenshot, baby.
Screenshot that shit, bitch. You had that thought. You had that thought. You're like, well, I deleted it. Not good enough. You had the thought. I'm better than you. I never had that thought. You had that thought, you piece of shit. Look, I saved it. I put it on my blog.
Yeah, I'm not sure why people think that anyone would think that deleting a tweet makes it go away. It's like, hello, been on the internet for a while.
Yeah. Well, it's even like the thing is they don't want you to be able to delete it. Because the problem is, if you don't delete it and you don't believe it anymore, it's really hard to say, hey, that thing above, I don't really believe that anymore. I changed the way I view things.
Yes.
Because people go, well, fuck you. I already have that over there. I'm going to just take that. I'm not going to pay attention to that shit you wrote underneath it.
It's on your permanent record.
It's forever, bro.
Like
it's
high
a
school.
tattoo.
We'll put this on your permanent record.
Yeah. It's like a tattoo. You keep it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's this thing where there's a lack of compassion. It's a lack of compassion issue. People are just like intentionally shitty to each other all the time online and trying to catch.
Yeah.
They're more trying to catch people doing something that's arrestable, like a cop trying to like get arrests on his record. It's like they're trying to catch you with something more than they're logically looking at it, thinking it's a bad thing that you've done. Or that it's an idea they don't agree with so much they need to insult you. I'm trying to catch you.
Yeah. I mean, it's way easier to be mean on social media than it is to be mean in person.
Yes.
Way easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's weird. It's not a normal way of human interacting. It's cheating. True. We're not supposed to be able to interact so easily with people we're not looking at.
Yes.
You would never do that. You'd never be so mean to someone who's looking in their eyes. And if you did, you'd feel like shit.
Most people.
Yeah, unless you're a sociopath, you'd feel terrible.
Yes.
So you can see, I'm laughing. Sorry, I'm laughing because like their thought process is like, hang on, there's another video here. Hang on, I need to turn this off. Sorry, but you can see how engrossed they are with something ranging from the way that people react to messages and the way that tweets go, and that's why I look at it from a perspective where I tried to post and ghost, and I stole that from Joe Rogan because that's what he does. He's like, I post it, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, I post and I ghost. I post and I'm gone. I don't look at comments, and I try to do that. But occasionally I get caught into it. I'm like, that SOB said that. Let me blast him back and everything. And it's again, it falls back to the dynamics of Elon and probably why maybe he was so in tune to get involved with Twitter as a company and wanting to disrupt that, and hence why the reason why I think it's a very particular place that we're in, and we do need an opportunity to disrupt. And I say that a lot, that many of the people that are tuning in, you've heard me say that numerous times, that we need to disrupt the status quo. We need to disrupt everything from the banking system to the political process to the tech giants. And that's for one reason that I am in Elon's camp. Now, I don't know where he's going to go with the direction. I don't know where he's going to go with it. There's nothing guaranteed. I can't read his mind, nor that I don't know if I even would want to. However, but when you look at what's going on, like the current stage of Twitter is what you have to benchmark that against. Like, in other words, if you benchmark, like, for example, today, they shut down yesterday, they shut down the accounts of Pepe Escobar, who had been writing, quite a bit. And Pepe's work is cross-posted across numerous media outlets. Like, the guy is world-class journalist, right? Like, everyone here that's listening in knows Pepe. They shut down Scott Ritter, Twitter account, Twitter handle. And it's like this. It's like, if you're a social platform and we have all these tech oligarchs, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, that are working against, not only freedom of speech, but also potentially altering election outcomes, right? Because I think that's where the direction it's going, is that they're being leveraged. These tech platforms have the ability, no different, whether you agree with Donald Trump or you don't agree with him, you have like a previous sitting U.S. president that's literally been kicked off a social platform. Does that make any sense in terms of our republic, our country? More than likely not. Some of the words, were they harmful? Yeah, yes, but that's going to happen. We don't live in a perfect society. And that word of censorship is a very difficult path, because I think that there potentially are things, and I don't want to jump into a whole conversation about censorship and everything. I want to specifically talk about, Elon and his ambitions in regards to Twitter, because there's been a lot of commentary. Now, I have heard some good discussions in regards to the venue of Twitter, and I'll bring this into play in just a moment. I apologize, I don't have it queued up exactly where I'd want it to be. But a perfect example is that someone made the comment on a Fox show where that Elon could be looking at Twitter as his basically newspaper, right? No different than Jeff Bezos purchasing the Washington Post. And I believe there's a few other publications that are owned by, people that are in political environment. So it's no different, but his is more in regards to a tech company. So I think from that perspective of disrupting the status quo, being able to hopefully influence some change in the positive direction in regards to free speech, it's probably a great direction to go. So let's break down. Let's listen to a few of the commentary in regards to the news cycle of today. This first one I'm going to play is with Fox News. And there's a couple of talking points in here that I think that kind of nails it in regards to what they specifically say. So let me bring this into the feed.
Musk has offered Twitter $41 billion in cash to take the company private. Twitter's board is meeting at 1 p.m. Eastern today to carefully review Musk's latest takeover bid. Twitter is one of the largest social media platforms, claiming 330 million monthly active users around the world. And Musk has criticized the company for not living up to free speech principles and says it needs to be transformed. And if Elon Musk acquires it, we may just see him do that. Okay, so do you think he's serious, Pete?
I do. First of all, can I say how great it is to be back on the couch?
Yes, you can.
I just want to say that. I love
Amen.
this show.
Did you give it an amen?
I thought I heard
an amen.
Amen coming
Amen.
out. at that. Hallelujah.
So it's great to see you. I will say, I'll give it an amen as well to Elon Musk. I think he is serious. I think this is a guy who's made a lot of money. He's been very successful. Loves this country and the freedoms it affords. Looks at a space like Twitter and says, it used to be a public forum, now it's not. The business model also fundamentally broken. So I'm going to buy in to create leverage. Now that I see it from the inside a little bit more, I realize how broken it is. I want it all. And I take it private in the process. And if they walk away from the deal, which they might, and he decides to get rid of his shares, that puts them in a really precarious situation as well, as far as shareholders and stock price. So I did not have on my bingo card 1 week ago, Elon Musk, tries to save free speech in America. But he's a free thinker and a bold guy. And I hope he stares this down. And I thought we were stuck to alternate ecosystems as conservatives or free thinkers, create your own. It would be amazing if you could take a brand and revitalize it and make it a true town square.
Wow. That is so precise what you just said. Not stuck. He gives that option that is already established, which has been part of the challenge for other platforms coming from the ground up, right? He starts with 330 million followers.
I mean, it's like if CNN could ever figure it out.
Very interesting take, and I think Pete's right on the money in terms of that public platform, that public town square, of being able to openly disagree or agree with each other without the ramifications that I don't agree with what you said, so therefore we're banning you, therefore we're canceling you. And we see that time and time again. Now that goes both ways, because I have truly seen that. I've seen that on the left, and I have witnessed on the right as well. So I think that each person as an individual has to stomach a little bit of what that is, of something that you don't necessarily agree with, and you say that we have to cancel that. Because if we're going to truly believe in the ideas of freedom of liberty, freedom of speech, then you have to be able to read and see through things and disagree with it without the removal or saying that we need to cancel this, we need to ban this. Even to a certain extent in regards to, I know one of the topics that always comes up is in regards to violence, right? Like, hey, we need to stop all violence and whatever. But, if someone says, hey, we're going to take pitchforks, and I'm kind of borrowing this, but if we're going to take pitchforks to Washington, D.C. and everything, is that really violent? Violent. I mean, it's a very fine line. It's a very delicate balance, but we're witnessing primarily currently is one side completely dominate the conversation and really eliminating the ability to publicly debate our differences without the risk of being completely shut down. And time and time and time again, it's happening. So I think that was spot on. Now let's jump to breaking points. Breaking points also had a few things that I did agree with. And I'm finding with breaking points more now than ever with Crystal and Sagar. There's a lot that I don't agree with them. I think they're cool people. I think they'd be great people to go have a drink with and chat with, but I think they're still plugged into their ideologies of corporate media quite a bit. And there's numerous examples that I can share with you in regards to. I'm not saying they're funded by corporate America and some of their thoughts. I think that they're still plugged into some of those ideologies in regards to their views on everything, ranging from, they were the first. Like whenever they came out, you can go back and track this, and I wish everyone would. But I keep expecting the Kool-Aid man to burst through CJ's wall. Backtrack. But like, you remember whenever we were talking about inflation, you can go back. They probably removed it, but you can go back like 2 months ago, because I almost did a reaction video to it where they were laughing about the inflation, and they had these statistics like it's completely transitory. People who are saying that it's not are completely wrong. They wanted to deem themselves the experts of inflation. And I laughed about it. I'm like, you two don't know what the hell you're talking about. You guys are both completely wrong. And where are we today? Inflation is at a 40-year high, and now they're trying to explain it. They're trying to say this is Putin's inflation. So and then also how they refuse, like even when Sagar, was fully vaccinated, double booster and everything else like that, he still had COVID, where they were still projecting that it was still the right thing to do, because, without stating any of the risk, they wouldn't do that. They refused to do that. And so I have to question a little bit of their reporting integrity. I hope they listen to this, and I would love to jump on with Crystal and Sagar and debate this, or them jump onto my platform so we can have some of this discussion, because I still think that even though they want to, brand themselves as the counter to the mainstream media, there's still a lot of their ideologies are still the same as the legacy media. So let's jump into this conversation that they had in regards to Elon and the breaking news regarding his attempt to purchase Twitter.
Programmed the show, and Crystal and I were frankly shocked.
Yeah,
right,
so we
substantive these responses.
We gave y'all
I
a
was
bunch.
annoyed by it, to be honest.
Yeah, so I mean, we gave y'all a bunch of options for premium subscribers that you could vote on. How many votes did we end up getting?
But
You were tracking.
feels even more. It just feels so salient, the fact that we're talking about housing. But let's start with Twitter. Obviously, news broke this morning. I was scrolling my phone at like 6 a.m. and everybody's freaking out. Elon Musk. Okay, he's put in an offer, $52 a share, $41 billion.
Wait, $54.20.
Okay,
isn't it?
yeah,
You
sorry,
get the 420 in there.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh. All right, fact checked. $54 per share, a total of $41 billion. So what he writes in his prospectus, which he had to file with the SEC, is he's very clear about his ultimate aim. He doesn't say anything about business. He doesn't talk about the company being run in a way that he doesn't particularly like. What he says is that this is all about free speech. He says in the opening line of his letter, I believe free speech is vital to a democracy. So it's an interesting takeover that he's doing there. And Marshall, I'm curious for your view here on what exactly this means by Elon, because traditional past shareholder activism has to do with, I think this company is being badly run. This is not about that. This is, I think that this company is not, abiding by content moderation standards that I think are important. So what do you think? And then we'll get everybody else in here.
Yeah, just real quick, super pumped to be here. Usually this involves a expensive train ride and a hotel or your couch.
Right.
This is just
we're
an
on
Uber.
Marshall's turf now.
Yeah, so this
Right.
is
We're in your
awesome. That's
city.
why I'm not wearing a tie.
Kyle's as well.
Rebellion.
That's right.
No, so here's the tip. We were talking about this morning. We should think of this more as Elon Musk buying a newspaper than Elon Musk buying a big tech company. So with Jeff Bezos, 2013.
Yeah, I
sees
love
the
it when
Washington
billionaires
Post.
buy newspapers.
This is a long tradition. Like oftentimes, like rich people will buy a company, a product, not because they think it's going to throw off all this cash, but like they believe in the idea behind it. That's what Jeff Bezos does with the Post. He's like, look, like there's obviously some tech things I could do here, but let's get real. I believe in a certain ideology, broadly like center left, like democratic politics. I think this has a long legacy within that side of politics, so I want to make it survive.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, he's not coming in the way Paul Singer came in last year, where it's like, look, Jack Dorsey, love Jack. I think we all like Jack. Shouldn't be CEOs of two companies. It's kind of crazy that, let's forget the edit button jokes for a second. It's kind of crazy that this company has not shipped new products in the past 3 years, that Twitter is the same fundamentally as it's been since 2015.
I don't
But in the
mind
final
that
part,
personally, but
and this number is crazy to me, Twitter only made $350 million in profit the past 2 years. So like, it's kind of like wild how disproportionate, how big this company is relative to how little money it actually makes.
can I have an unpopular opinion. I wonder what you guys think, but I actually don't want the edit button.
So she goes a little bit to the edit button, which, I'm not into that part of the conversation. But jumping back into the financial aspect of it, because I think that's important to assess in regards to Twitter. And he was a little bit surprised in terms of the profit that the revenue that they've been able to generate the past couple of years off of the platform without introducing a whole lot of new. Let me check this real quick. A lot of new things associated with Twitter. I think Elon completely understands that. I think he understands the upward potential of Twitter, the bandwidth that it has to mobilize, and the amount of resurgence that potentially they could have. Now, there's a lot of variables that are unknown. For example, in terms of staffing, like how many people are going to jump ship if this happens, if this deal closes, how many people are going to leave Twitter completely, what type of leadership is going to be put in place in terms of managing Twitter, what does that look like? So by far, there are a lot of unknown variables in regards to it, but I still fall back to the angle and the aspect that I completely support the disruption of the status quo. Even though we don't know the outcome, there's certain things that we would like the outcome to be in this direction, where they allow free speech, they bring back a lot of people who are banned off of Twitter, a lot of those things that people are, but there's still some variables that we don't know, and we have to be mindful of that. But I fully support the attempt to disrupt the status quo, especially when you're dealing with a venue like Twitter, where you have a multitude of other companies who are basically trying to reformat and to basically come out with a similar product. Whether is it Fever? I'm not saying that right. Or Gab, got other similar products, but Elon's coming at it from the right perspective because there's a platform that's already out there, right? As a business development or an entrepreneur, you have to assess things like, do we need to go out there and reinvent the wheel? Do we need to spend billions of dollars and go raise all kinds of capital to basically duplicate something that's already out there? Or do we look at an existing product that is a benchmark of where we like it, but how much further can we take it and make it better by coming in from an acquisition standpoint? That's why it doesn't make any sense, in my personal opinion, to launch a completely new platform when there's a platform already out there that exists like Twitter, the millions of users that are there, and to change the course of the direction. So you have to look at it more from a financial aspect of that. A lot of variables that we still don't know. But I think if you look at the course history, if you look at the pattern of things that Elon has either said or done, whether you agree or disagree, a couple of things that I want to remind everyone. Let's not forget that Elon was, quick to jump in and provide the Starlink servers and the terminals to access the satellite internet services for Ukraine. And, he did that because he believed that, hey, you know what, the Ukrainian people should have an opportunity to do that. I'm sorry, I'm getting this ad from the Washington Post. I'm not sure why I even have the Washington Post in here, but yeah, so Elon Musk, he's going to keep Starlink online, give them the internet access. But after he did that, what happened? Elon was pressured. Was pressured where they were like, hey, Elon, if you're going to launch SpaceX and get the Starlink to work, we want you to block Russian news sources and block all this other information that we deem as disinformation. And Elon put it very publicly in a tweet. He said, listen, Starlink has been told by some governments, not Ukraine, to block Russian news sources. We will not do so unless at gunpoint. Sorry to be a free speech absolutist. So it's there. It's there in terms of his perspectives and the way that he looks at free speech. And he looks at the opportunity for these platforms to evolve and develop. And, not to rehash everything I said, but I think that this move is a great move. I think this could be a big win for free speech advocates. I'm not going to politicize it. A lot of people are saying, well, this is a great move for the right and everything. No, I don't. That's not what I'm about. Hopefully, you guys all know that by now. I'm done with partisan politics in our country because it makes absolutely no sense. We need to disrupt it and change it, not go with the status quo, similar to what Elon is doing with Twitter, similar to what we need to do with the banking situation. So I regard what Elon's efforts are as a win. There's a lot still to be told in this story of what it evolves to, who are going to be the people are going to be involved with it. What does it mean for the long-term goals of Twitter as it evolves, if it does go to more of a private type company? Lots of unknowns. But again, looking at the status quo, looking at the current trajectory of where Twitter is going, the amount of information that's still being suppressed, the amount of people that they're still removing for their platform, it's a good thing. I truly mean that. So listen, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. I've been thinking about this whole thing with Elon for, we've talked about this now for at least the past week in regards to what's happening, and it's evolved, and this is the moment that we've arrived. So I really appreciate every one of you tuning in, taking the time to listen to what I have to say. Comment directly on this video. If you have not done so yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, CJOMC. It stands for Open Mic Cast. There's going to be, again, open discussion similar to having tonight. There's going to be reaction videos, and then also some simulcast of other media outlets and trying to help share different angles and different perspectives. So everyone have a wonderful evening. I'm signing out. God bless all of you, and I will be back real soon. Take care, and thank you.